Expedition Field Notes Day 3. Today I was reminded of how some of the noblest creatures can hide in plain sight, appearing as unassuming as a piece of shrubbery. For the sake of my safety, the captain had urged one of the kitchen hands come with me on an exploration of a nearby valley. He was an amiable but dull lad, and I soon gave up attempts at conversation. After a while I hardly noticed him. In the valley was a stand of pink tree forms, and I was eager to gather a specimen. With the boy standing nearby, I withdrew a small hatchet and proceeded to hack at the wrist-sized limb. Instantly, the pink branches of some size began to rain down on me from all directions. Just as quickly, the boy leapt forward to shield me from the pelting limbs with his own body and rushed me out of harm's way. He had sustained some bruising blows for my sake, with no thought for himself. A truly noble fellow. I returned to the ship with a different view of dull kitchen hands. But what had caused that ferocious torrent of tree limbs? Expedition Field Notes Day 6. Today we hiked over a range of hills and came upon a vast lake, or perhaps a sea inlet. Lounging about on the wide sweep of beach, there were what seemed to be an uncountable variety of bipedal humanoids. This world is a cornucopia of diversity. On our own world, there are also a fair number of primate types and thousands of bipedal types, mostly birds, but only one bipedal primate. How is it our early ancestors couldn't get along well enough so that more species survived? Well, on this world, they all seem to make room for each other and even enjoy the same things together. Something very strange is going on here. I need to return to this site for more observation. Expedition Field Notes Day 7. During this afternoon's boat excursion up a meandering stream, we all paused ashore to lounge on the ground under a strand of trees. I decided to take a short siesta. I was jolted from my sleepy reverie by the sounds of violence. 2 men and one of the women were cursing and striking at each other. Obviously, this was a vicious love triangle coming to a head. Then it occurred to me that perhaps the woman was in danger. I quickly grabbed up a stick and moved to intercede. I need not to have worried, since I had misread the situation. They had settled on some kind of insect nest for a nap, and had awoken to biting stings. All of the thrashing was to help each other remove themselves of the pests. Later, when in the boat and floating around a bend, I spied a huge humanoid creature reaching for a small native of a different type. Within moments they had passed out of sight. Had the gesture I had seen been of friendship or threat? Without any more information, I could only ask questions. Expedition Field Notes Day 9. As on every other morning, I started with a thick, foamy face covered in lather for a shave of yesterday's stubble. Then it was to the dining area for a breakfast of toast slathered in jam, along with fresh donuts dipped in thick chocolate icing. Then we all gathered for today's outing. To avoid more bites, we all applied a heavy layer of repellent on our arms, legs, and faces. On deck, some of the crew were busy applying thick coats of paint to exposed and weathered equipment. Yet we had better things to do. Yesterday, one of our group had spotted some kind of natural mud or tar pot, with inhabitants gathered and busily applying thick coatings of this material to each other. I couldn't imagine why they were bothering to do this, so I had to see more, and maybe try it for myself. Expedition Field Notes Day 10. Upon our return from today's excursion, in which we had come across many perplexing scenes of native activity, the captain informed me there was to be a festive cookout dinner. Within short order, our guide, Olpar, and some kitchen crew had erected the large solar reflector grill. Soon they were prodding at large, colorful native vegetables with long rods, turning them in the scorching heat. I immediately recalled one of today's scenes that looked much like this. In a grassy patch under the pounding sun was a group of large, colorful natives being gently prodded by smaller green attendants. The loungers were as immobile as the crews roasting colorful vegetables. Now I am once again wondering what had been going on in that grassy patch today, and what it was we were eating tonight. Expedition Field Notes, Day 13. I remember as a boy seeing ads in the back of comic books offering wondrous things like X-ray glasses, sea monkeys, and of course a crystal garden. With the last item, you just had to pour the crystal powder into water, and crystal mounds would grow as if they were alive. This is what I thought when our guide, Olpar, presented me with a homely but cute creature, which seemed to be made of crystal facets. I asked him if it was an animal, mineral, or vegetable. Being a native of this remarkable world, he replied that such artificial divisions didn't exist, since all living things were one with each other and the ground from which they came. Not being a native of this world, I was polite by not disagreeing to his face. He seemed to have no concept of science. I was sure the creature could be classified, if only I could take it apart. Expedition Field Notes, Day 14. On today's outing, Olpar brought us to a grove of peculiar fruit-bearing bipedal trees that had the freedom to wander around at will. Apart from the colorful fruit shapes, the trees, if I could call them that, had dusty off-white skins, as if they were covered in some mineral. Several humanoids had gathered to harvest the fruits, to perhaps relieve the bipedal trees of their burden. That the fruits were edible was not yet apparent, since I saw nobody eating. My guide turned to me and raised an eyebrow, asked my opinion of whether we were seeing an animal, mineral, or vegetable.